All right. It's Mike and Abner here with Mike's Minutes. How is everybody doing today? We got a good one for you today. The day is, do you find yourself pretending that your problems do not exist? Well, this is from Brianna Weiss. This is her comments on this section. And again, this is all about the things that the highly successful people do that those that never reach that level of success fail to do. So, her point is that, there are the successful people that face these things and deal with it, whereas the unsuccessful or not so successful, or the folks just don't deal with it, just ignore it or pretend it's not there. So she says, make a spreadsheet of your debt, write a list of the habits you know are detrimental to your health, and reflect on what discomfort they help you to avoid. Think about the people you owe apologies to. Envision what it would take to transform your life. Be honest with yourself. Sticking your head in the sand is actively making things worse. All right, so and she mentions, of course, probably the number one thing. When you ask people what is their greatest concerns that they have, number one is debt worldwide, and that is the reason, they're fearful that they're going to outlive their money is the number one fear, and then number two comes right behind it is health. So we're going to take on those first. Of course, debt or financial. Do you ignore the problems you're in, the debt you're in? It's kind of the American way now, and I'm not casting any boulders here, because there's always that challenge, and it's easy to get in debt before you can turn around good. You boom, there you are. But hey, here's the reality. Do you evaluate your debt situation, your financial situation, and if it's out of whack, are you facing up to that, and then are you working on a plan to get rid of that debt? The number one guy in terms of debt and financial is Dave Ramsey. Hey, if you want to follow a system, follow his system. It works. There are thousands and thousands of people that have been through his program and as a result are debt free. And you're not free until you're debt free. If you've got a debt hanging over you, you are a slave to that debt, whoever owns that debt. So it's important that you start out, get out a spreadsheet, make a spreadsheet of all your debt, and then you got to do a couple of things. You got to decide you're not going to go and add any more debt to it, and you're going to pay down what debt you have. Whether that means tightening the belt straps, or whether that means going out and get an additional job, increasing your income in some way to pay down that debt. But you've really got to gain control of the debt, or it will master you. Health, number two thing most people are concerned with. There's so much information out there about health. But I keep this simple for me and the people I've coached over the years. Here's number one for health is eat more real food than processed food. Number one, you've got to consume at least 80 to 90% of all of your calories from a real food. That is something that grows on a vine, on a tree, on a bush, in the ground. Things that are real versus those things that are man-made, that are made in a factory somewhere with a bunch of chemicals coming together. You've got to eat real food. So that's number one for your health. And then fitness. What are the things you avoid? Now, here's the way I look at fitness, and this is the way when I was doing my personal training. One of the things that I always work toward is fitness that allows you to do the normal things of your day with energy, to be able to do those things plus deal with any potential emergency situation, that you're able to handle that, and that you've got to be able to function in the course of the day to be able to handle the physical challenges that you face. And you've got to be able to do that long term. It's one thing to be able to lift a lot of heavy weights, but it's another thing to have functional strength that allows you to do the things that you need to do and the challenges that you face, physically throughout the day. And you've got to be able to do that. Else you're putting yourself at risk of injury because you're not fit enough to handle those things. So, and again, this doesn't require a gym membership. It doesn't require personal training. It doesn't require anything. It requires you're getting up and doing something. I know so many people that lived in their 80s and 90s that some of the key things that they did on a day-to-day basis was some type of gardening, some type of walking, some of the basic things. So don't allow yourself to fall into a trap that just because you don't have a club or health club membership or something that you can't get in good shape. And there's a lot of body weight exercise programs out there now that are easy to follow. Spiritual, we are a spiritual being inside of a physical body. If you are neglecting the spiritual side of your life, you are going to lose out long term. You've got to face the fact that we are spiritual beings, and you need to get that right. You need to get that right. It needs to be something that is a daily thing. It can't be something that's just a once a week or once a year activity. Your ability to reach your personal best depends on how you handle your spiritual side of your life. Relational, communal, of course, who is the most important person in your life? How is that relationship? Make that relationship right. Do what you have to do to make sure that person is a key focus of your day. If you're only serving yourself, you'll never win. We're here to serve others. That's our purpose, period. So, in a relationship, you've got to make sure that relationship is nurtured and taken care of. And if it's not, then you need to get that right. And don't put that off and don't ignore it. You've got to make sure that relational side is right if you're going to live a full and complete life. Mental, I think the average now, and I've talked about this often, but, reading, studying, growing, if you're not doing those things, your brain is like anything other, like a muscle in your body. If you're not utilizing it, if you're not growing it, then it's dying. I think the average folks that once they graduate from high school or college, they very seldom read more than one book a year. So we've got to face those. We've got to continue to challenge our mind, continue to grow, continue to read, continue to study. Even reading on things that are not really your passion, just to challenge yourself and to see if you can grow in a new area. And who knows, you may find a new passion as well. Recreational, finding the downtime. This past weekend, I wanted to work, but it didn't work out, so I took advantage of that. I was off of pretty much everything for the weekend, and I vegged out. I played golf. You've got to have those downtimes. You've got to have some recreation and some time away from the day-to-day, especially if you're, an entrepreneur. It is so easy to get caught up in doing 80, 90 hours in a week. You got to regulate it. Again, we talk about balance. We talk about imbalances in our life. And one of the things that you need to do, is make sure that you have time to work in recreation. My wife and I are trying really hard to make sure that at least one weekend a month we can get away, that we can, just take some downtime. And most of us don't need weeks off. Most of us can get by with a long weekend. But there's nothing wrong with an extended vacation. But we still need to make sure we work that into our life. So if you're pretending that you have no issues in these areas, you are neglecting your best self and reaching the full potential that you have. You've got to face these areas, you got to deal with them, and you got to make sure that they're in right order. And that way you are going to maximize your potential in all of these areas. But you can't ignore them. You've got to face them. You've got to evaluate. One of the things you can do is, I love journaling. I love planning. I love writing these things down so I can look back and get a hold of these things. Evaluate at the end of each week. Look at how you've done. Did you allow yourself some downtime? I think really this downtime thing is really something that most of us think is, and I know I have. If I was not working, doing something constantly, then I felt I was cheating. That's not the case. A lot of the greatest success stories we read about are folks that actually took time to think, to relax, to evaluate. They took time and they did not ignore any of these areas. You read the biographies of great people and you'll find out that they didn't neglect these things. And we shouldn't either. So if we're going to reach our best self, let's make sure that we look at these areas, look at that wheel of life, see if they're in balance or not, okay? We've got to get those things in order if we're going to be our best self. Not only for us, but the people that are in our circle of influence. We want to be able to give them our best every day. And if you're ignoring any of these areas, that imbalance is going to lead to stresses in your life that are going to deny you from being your personal best. Okay? So write down those areas and evaluate each one, see where you're out of whack, and then get to work on a game plan to fix those areas. Don't ignore them. Let's get them fixed, and let's live our best self. Let's be our best self today and every day. Okay, folks? That's going to be it for today. That's Mike's Minutes for this day. I hope to see you again real soon. Remember, if you feel you've benefited from this, please share this with someone. Please comment. The way things work now, if you don't like it, you don't comment on it, you don't share it, then it just disappears. And I want to help as many people as I can to be their best self as I go on my own personal journey. So again, thanks for joining my email list. Thanks for being a part of Mike's Minute. I appreciate you, and have a great day, and I'll be back again soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.